the forgotten vegetables that helped win World War II. While bombs fell and battleships clashed during World War II, another life-or-death struggle unfolded in backyards, gardens, and small farms across the world. As food rationing tightened its grip, people turned to alternative sources of nutrition. Amidst the turmoil, 30 remarkable vegetables emerged as unsung heroes, feeding millions when conventional food supplies collapsed. These weren't just plants. They were wartime weapons that played a crucial role in securing victory from the home front. Let's explore these forgotten vegetables that helped sustain nations during one of humanity's darkest hours. Victory cabbage, America's patriotic sauerkraut. When World War II erupted, anti-German sentiment swept across the United States. Even a simple food like sauerkraut, with its distinctly German name, became a target. To counter this, markets and government publications began promoting it under a new, patriotic title, Victory Cabbage. This humble fermented food proved to be incredibly valuable during wartime because it offered something precious: preservation without refrigeration or canning supplies. Both refrigeration and metal for canning were heavily rationed, making traditional food storage methods impractical. Families across America began transforming abundant cabbage harvests into tangy, vitamin-rich sauerkraut using nothing more than salt and fermentation. Victory cabbage was particularly important due to its high vitamin C content, which helped prevent scurvy when citrus fruits were unavailable due to wartime shipping restrictions. Additionally, the simple fermentation process increased the bioavailability of nutrients, ensuring that families received maximum nutrition from limited resources. The U.S. government actively promoted victory cabbage, not only as an act of patriotism but as a practical and necessary solution to food shortages. A single large batch of this fermented cabbage could sustain a family for months, freeing up commercial food supplies for troops overseas. Swedes, rutabagas, Britain's unexpected savior. During the darkest days of wartime rationing, a root vegetable with a rather unfortunate name became Britain's lifeline, the rutabaga, commonly known as the swede in the UK. While often overlooked in peacetime, this humble root became essential for a nation under siege. Unlike more delicate vegetables, swedes thrived in poor soil, matured quickly, and could be stored for months in simple root cellars or even buried directly in garden soil. Their high vitamin C content, higher than oranges by weight, helped prevent widespread scurvy, particularly during the crucial winter months when shipping blockades cut off citrus imports. What made swedes even more valuable was their versatility. Wartime cookbooks featured hundreds of creative recipes, from mock apple pies, where grated swedes replaced scarce apples, to rutabaga custards that mimicked traditional desserts. They could be boiled, mashed, roasted, or even made into soups, making them indispensable in the kitchen. Most importantly, swedes could grow even in areas devastated by bombing, producing reliable harvests even in disrupted soil. This resilience made them a vital food source in urban centers affected by relentless bombing campaigns like the Blitz. Jerusalem artichokes, America's wartime superfood. As wartime shipping restrictions limited food imports, Americans rediscovered a native plant that had sustained indigenous peoples for centuries, the Jerusalem artichoke. Despite its misleading name, this root vegetable is neither from Jerusalem nor an artichoke. Instead, it's a member of the sunflower family and became a wartime sensation due to its incredible productivity and nutritional value. One of the greatest advantages of Jerusalem artichokes was their perennial nature. Unlike many crops that required replanting each season, once established, they would return year after year with little to no maintenance. Their knobby tubers could be harvested as needed throughout the winter, and any left in the ground would simply sprout into the next year's crop. Government pamphlets praised their high iron content, which helped compensate for reduced meat rations. Additionally, their natural sweetness, derived from inulin rather than starch, made them valuable for adding flavor to dishes when sugar was strictly rationed. Perhaps most importantly, Jerusalem artichokes thrived without any attention, producing up to 15 pounds of food per square yard by their second year. For families juggling war work, air raid duties, and home defense responsibilities, this self-sufficient crop provided essential food security with minimal effort. Kale, the frost-defying green. While delicate greens like lettuce and spinach withered at the first frost, wartime families turned to a hardier leafy vegetable, kale. This nutrient-packed superfood not only survived harsh winter conditions but actually became sweeter after exposure to frost, making it an essential part of the wartime diet. Unlike most greens that required spring planting, kale could be sown in late summer and harvested throughout winter, extending the growing season when fresh vegetables were scarce. This made it a crucial addition to home gardens, particularly as seeds and gardening supplies became limited. Kale's exceptional calcium content made it particularly valuable during the war. Cup for cup, it provided more calcium than milk, which was heavily rationed. Wartime nutritionists promoted it as essential for children's bone development, ensuring that even during food shortages, young people received adequate nutrition. Additionally, kale's resilience to pests, disease, and poor soil conditions made it an ideal crop for novice gardeners who had been encouraged to grow their own food through government-led victory garden initiatives. Parsnips, nature's sweetener. As sugar rationing became stricter, often limited to just 8 ounces per person per week, wartime gardeners turned to a forgotten root vegetable with a remarkable secret: the parsnip. These long, white roots contained natural sugars that intensified dramatically after exposure to frost. Unlike quick-growing crops, parsnips required patience, taking nearly 4 months to mature. However, their ability to store naturally in the ground throughout winter without rotting meant that families could harvest them as needed without requiring additional storage space. Wartime recipe books highlighted parsnips as a substitute for sugar, featuring dishes such as parsnip cakes, puddings, and sweetened soups. Their high energy content, providing more calories per pound than potatoes, made them an especially important source of fuel for workers in farms and factories supporting the war effort. Good King Henry, the perennial supergreen. As wartime seed shortages limited gardening options, European families rediscovered an ancient perennial green that had sustained their ancestors for centuries: Good King Henry. Unlike annual spinach, which required fresh seeds each season, Good King Henry returned year after year without the need for replanting. Its tender shoots could be harvested in early spring like asparagus, followed by spinach-like leaves throughout summer, effectively doubling its food value from a single plant. What made this vegetable particularly valuable was its hardiness. It thrived in partial shade, poor soil, and neglected areas. Perfect for families whose primary gardeners had been drafted into military service. Its high iron content made it particularly important for women working in munition factories, where anemia was a major concern. Government nutrition programs specifically recommended Good King Henry as a blood-building food that helped maintain workforce efficiency during the war. The legacy of wartime vegetables. These remarkable vegetables weren't just sources of food, they were lifelines that helped sustain entire populations during World War II. From victory cabbage to Good King Henry, they proved that resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity could ensure survival even in the most challenging times. While modern agriculture has shifted towards convenience and mass production, these forgotten wartime heroes still hold valuable lessons for today's world. Whether in times of crisis or in the pursuit of sustainable food systems, these vegetables remind us of the power of nature and the importance of self-reliance in food production. Blanched stalks of cardoon could be harvested continuously throughout the growing season, allowing for an extended yield from the same garden space. This made it an invaluable addition to wartime gardens where food supply was a constant concern. The mild artichoke-like flavor of cardoon added an interesting and pleasant variation to otherwise monotonous wartime diets, especially when spices and imported flavorings were scarce or entirely unavailable. One of the most valuable aspects of cardoon was its perennial nature in milder climates. Unlike annual crops that required replanting each year, cardoon returned season after season with minimal care. This characteristic made it an excellent food source for households trying to stretch their limited resources. Even in colder regions, the roots of the plant could be protected with mulch over the winter, allowing it to survive and regrow in the spring. This meant families could rely on a steady food source without the need to plant new seeds each year, a crucial advantage when both food and fuel were rationed. Beyond its role as a food source, cardoon offered another essential benefit: Its dried stalks and massive seed heads could be used as kindling and fire starters. In a time when heating fuel was scarce, this dual-purpose function made cardoon an indispensable plant for resource-conscious wartime households. The ability to provide both sustenance and firewood meant that families could maximize their limited garden space in ways that were both practical and essential for survival. Salsify, the oyster plant. As wartime fish and seafood supplies dwindled due to rationing and maritime dangers, families turned to an extraordinary root vegetable to fill the gap, salsify. Often referred to as the oyster plant, due to its unique flavor that resembled oysters when cooked, salsify provided a much-needed alternative in an era of severe food shortages. Unlike many vegetables that had to be harvested immediately, salsify had an exceptional ability to remain in the ground all winter without spoiling. This characteristic turned the soil into a natural root cellar, eliminating the need for preservation equipment or storage facilities. Families could simply dig up the roots as needed, even breaking through frozen ground to access fresh food in the dead of winter. This ability made it a particularly valuable crop in regions with harsh winters, ensuring a consistent supply of nutrition during the most challenging months. Salsify's value extended beyond just its root. Both the roots and the greens were edible, effectively offering two different food sources from the same plant. The spring greens appeared weeks before other vegetables were ready for harvest, providing essential early-season nutrition when winter food stores were nearly depleted. Additionally, the plant's long, straight roots grew vertically rather than spreading out, making it an efficient use of limited garden space. This was especially important as victory gardens expanded into every available area, including narrow urban plots and bomb-damaged spaces. Scorzonera, the black salsify. While salsify was a valuable food source, its lesser-known cousin, scorzonera, or black salsify, proved even more critical during wartime. This unusual root vegetable, with its dark black skin and snow-white flesh, demonstrated extraordinary winter survival capabilities. Unlike most root crops that had to be harvested before the ground froze, scorzonera could remain buried for up to 2 years without spoiling. This made it an irreplaceable food reserve during extended periods of crisis when gardening became dangerous or impossible. Another key advantage of scorzonera was its high inulin content, a complex carbohydrate that did not raise blood sugar levels. For families with diabetic members struggling with insulin shortages due to wartime medical rationing, scorzonera provided a safe and reliable food source that helped manage their condition when medications were unavailable. Scorzonera was also remarkably resilient, resisting pests and diseases better than most other root vegetables. This made it an ideal crop for long-term cultivation, as it could thrive in the same garden space for years without requiring the crop rotation typically needed for root vegetables. This dependability made it a cornerstone of wartime food security planning, ensuring harvests even when gardening expertise and supplies were limited. Hamburg parsley, the dual-purpose plant. During wartime, when every inch of garden space mattered, vegetables that provided multiple harvests became especially valuable. Hamburg parsley was one such plant, offering both nutrient-rich parsley leaves and thick, parsnip-like roots from the same footprint. Unlike conventional parsley, which was cultivated only for its leaves, Hamburg parsley developed substantial roots that could be stored in the ground or in sand-filled boxes throughout the winter. This two-in-one efficiency doubled the food value derived from the same plot of land, a crucial benefit when victory gardens had to maximize output within limited space. Hamburg parsley also boasted exceptional vitamin content. Its leaves contained more vitamin C than oranges, making it an essential dietary supplement at a time when citrus fruits were virtually unavailable. Meanwhile, the roots provided concentrated nutrition, helping to compensate for limited meat and protein rations. The plant's biennial nature allowed families to harvest leaves and some roots in the first year while leaving others to flower and produce seeds in the second. This cycle ensured a continuous supply of fresh parsley and root vegetables, reducing dependence on scarce garden seeds. Maswa, the pest-resistant tubers. As global conflict disrupted traditional food supplies, agricultural experts sought hardy alternatives from around the world. One such discovery came from the high Andes. Maswa, a plant related to nasturtiums that produced an abundant yield of pest-resistant tubers. Unlike potatoes, which were vulnerable to blight and required substantial space, Maswa vines could be trained to grow on vertical supports, yielding up to 4 pounds of nutritious tubers per square foot. This made it one of the most space-efficient vegetables available during wartime. The vine's distinctive leaves and bright flowers also served a secondary purpose, camouflaging victory gardens from aerial observation during air raids. Maswa's natural pest resistance was another major advantage. The plant repelled root-eating insects and nematodes, protecting not only itself but also neighboring crops. This made it an essential component of victory garden designs, reducing the need for chemical pesticides, which were both expensive and difficult to obtain. Skirret, the forgotten sweet root. With sugar rationing limiting sweeteners to mere ounces per week, wartime gardeners rediscovered skirret, an ancient root vegetable that had once been more popular than carrots. Skirret produced clusters of sweet white roots that provided a natural source of sweetness when traditional options were unavailable. Unlike annual crops that required replanting, skirret formed perennial clumps that returned stronger each year. This self-perpetuating nature made it particularly valuable when garden seeds were scarce. Skirret's roots remained in the ground throughout winter, creating a living root cellar that could be harvested as needed, even in freezing conditions. The plant's natural sweetness came from complex carbohydrates rather than simple sugars, providing sustained energy for long hours of physical labor in factories and fields. Government nutritionists recommended skirret, particularly for children, as its mild, sweet taste helped make otherwise plain foods more appealing in an era of extreme dietary limitations. Ossie, the New Zealand yam. When potato blight threatened British and European crops, agricultural authorities introduced Ossie, a vibrant Andean tuber that had already proven successful in New Zealand. Ossie quickly became a victory garden favorite due to its excellent storage qualities and resistance to diseases that plagued potatoes. Unlike conventional root crops that needed immediate harvesting, Ossie tubers actually improved in flavor after being exposed to sunlight for several days. This unique curing process eliminated the need for urgent processing, which was a significant advantage when labor was scarce during harvest season. Ossie thrived in cool, wet conditions, making it especially suited for wartime European gardens. Its high productivity and disease resistance ensured a reliable food source, even when other staple crops failed. These remarkable vegetables helped sustain families through the most challenging wartime years, providing nutrition, resilience, and self-sufficiency when it was needed most. During World War II, when food shortages were at their peak, the British people turned to resilient and highly nutritious vegetables that could withstand the harsh climate and limited resources. These wartime crops not only provided sustenance but also played a crucial role in maintaining public health. Many of these vegetables thrived in conditions where other crops struggled, ensuring a steady food supply even during the most challenging periods. The resilience of turnips. One such vegetable was the humble turnip. In an environment where many other vegetables struggled, turnips flourished in the damp British climate, producing abundant harvests even during the challenging war years. Their high vitamin C content, far superior to potatoes, helped prevent nutritional deficiencies when citrus and other imports were unavailable. Additionally, their crisp texture provided a refreshing salad ingredient during the winter months, adding much-needed variety to the limited wartime diet. The importance of purple sprouting broccoli. When garden production typically fell dormant, wartime British families relied on an extraordinary vegetable that defied winter itself, purple sprouting broccoli. Unlike modern broccoli with its single large head, this traditional variety survived winter temperatures as low as 10 degrees Fahrenheit, then produced dozens of small, tender purple shoots in late winter when other food sources were scarce. The remarkable timing of its harvest, from February through April, filled the crucial hunger gap when stored foods were depleted, but spring planting had yet to yield results. What made purple sprouting broccoli particularly valuable was its incredible vitamin content, providing more vitamin C than oranges at a time when scurvy threatened urban populations due to citrus shortages. Government nutritional programs actively promoted this vegetable for its role in maintaining public health during blockades. Its ability to withstand harsh conditions made it an ideal choice for novice gardeners, ensuring reliable harvests even when garden failures could have severe consequences for family nutrition. Arach, the forgotten leafy green. When soil was damaged by bombings or spinach seeds became scarce, wartime gardeners turned to an ancient, nearly forgotten leafy green, mountain spinach, also known as arach. This remarkable hardy annual produced abundant leaves even in poor soil conditions, thriving where more delicate vegetables failed. Unlike true spinach, which bolted quickly in summer heat, arach continued producing tender leaves throughout the hottest months, effectively extending the harvest season by several weeks. What made arach particularly valuable was its exceptional salt tolerance, allowing it to flourish in coastal areas damaged by flooding or in soil with high mineral content. This adaptability made it crucial for maintaining green vegetable production in compromised environments. Additionally, arach's self-seeding nature ensured that a single planting could return year after year, reducing dependence on commercial seed supplies when rationing limited access to new seeds. Celtis, a wartime lettuce alternative. As lettuce supplies dwindled due to wartime transport restrictions, Chinese immigrant communities introduced their Western neighbors to a remarkable alternative, celtis, or stem lettuce. Unlike conventional lettuce grown for its leaves, celtis produced a thick, crisp stem that stored far better and provided substantially more nutrition. Its dual harvest nature was particularly valuable, as young leaves could be harvested continuously for salads, while the main stem was collected weeks later, effectively doubling the food value from the same garden space. What made celtis particularly important was its high vitamin E content, which was rare in wartime diets. This vitamin played a crucial role in maintaining skin health and wound healing when medical supplies were limited. Additionally, the stems contained significant amounts of potassium, helping to balance nutritional deficiencies in ration-restricted diets. Unlike head lettuce, which required precise growing conditions, celtis thrived in varied environments and even partial shade, making it ideal for urban victory gardens. Yacon, a natural sweet treat. When sugar rationing eliminated sweet treats from daily life, South American immigrant communities shared a remarkable root crop with their neighbors, yacon. Unlike most root vegetables that stored energy as starch, yacon tubers contained fructooligosaccharides, complex sugars that tasted sweet but didn't impact blood sugar levels. This made yacon an ideal alternative for those craving sweetness during times of scarcity. The tremendous productivity of yacon made it particularly valuable. A single root system could yield up to 40 pounds of crisp, juicy tubers, providing a natural source of sweetness when fruits and conventional desserts were unavailable. Additionally, yacon tubers became even sweeter after several weeks in storage, developing an apple-like flavor that children particularly enjoyed. This provided crucial psychological comfort during the stressful wartime years. The plant's perennial nature in milder climates meant that small root pieces left in the ground would regenerate the following year, creating food security that spanned multiple growing seasons. This self-perpetuating quality further reduced dependence on commercial seed supplies, which were often in short supply due to wartime agricultural constraints. Miner's lettuce, a life-saving green. When scurvy threatened urban populations due to severe fruit and vegetable shortages, a humble native plant from western North America emerged as an unexpected lifesaver, miner's lettuce. This wild green contained more vitamin C than oranges and thrived during winter months when other fresh greens were unavailable. Unlike conventional garden vegetables that required careful planting and maintenance, miner's lettuce self-seeded abundantly and returned year after year with no effort. It even thrived in disturbed soil, including bomb-damaged areas, often being the first edible plant to reclaim these spaces. What made miner's lettuce particularly valuable was its ability to grow in deep shade and even indoors near windows, providing fresh greens in bomb shelters and basements where traditional gardening was impossible. This adaptability made it especially important in heavily bombed urban areas, where outdoor gardening was risky. Government nutrition programs actively promoted the identification and consumption of miner's lettuce, distributing pamphlets to teach city dwellers how to recognize this vital wild food growing in parks and vacant lots. Chinese artichokes, a reliable root crop. As global conflict disrupted food supplies, Chinese and Japanese immigrant communities introduced Western neighbors to an extraordinary perennial root crop, Chinese artichokes, also known as croissants. These small, pearl-like tubers required no peeling and could be eaten raw or cooked, providing a crisp texture when fresh vegetables were scarce. Unlike potatoes and other staple crops that were susceptible to late blight, Chinese artichokes demonstrated remarkable resistance to disease and pests. Their ability to withstand harsh conditions made them a reliable choice even for inexperienced gardeners. Additionally, their perennial nature meant that small tubers left in the ground would regrow the following year, ensuring a steady food supply with minimal effort. What made Chinese artichokes especially valuable was their exceptional storage capability. They remained crisp and fresh for months when stored in moist sand, extending the availability of fresh vegetables deep into winter when other options had been exhausted. Their ability to grow in partial shade and marginal garden areas further increased their value in wartime food production. These remarkable vegetables played a critical role in maintaining nutrition and food security during World War II. Their resilience, high nutritional value, and adaptability made them essential components of victory gardens across Britain. Many of these forgotten crops continue to offer valuable lessons in sustainable food production, demonstrating the importance of hardy, nutrient-dense vegetables in times of scarcity. What made this forgotten vegetable particularly valuable was its ability to thrive in the most unlikely places, cracks in walls, gaps between paving stones, and even in rubble-filled lots where traditional gardening was impossible. This adaptability ensured food production could continue even in heavily damaged urban areas. The plant's deep taproot made it exceptionally drought-resistant, allowing it to flourish without watering, even during dry summer months when water restrictions were in effect. This self-sufficiency not only conserved valuable resources but also ensured a continuous supply of vitamin-rich greens throughout the growing season. Ready, salsola soda. When coastal communities faced food shortages due to naval blockades, Italian immigrants introduced their neighbors to a remarkable vegetable that thrived in difficult conditions, agretti, also known as land seaweed. This unusual plant, with its succulent and crisp stems, provided a mineral-rich, seafood-like flavor without requiring dangerous fishing expeditions in mine-filled waters. Unlike conventional vegetables that needed fresh water, agretti's salt tolerance allowed it to be irrigated with slightly brackish water, conserving fresh water supplies for other needs. The plant flourished in sandy coastal soils where few other crops could grow. Its high iodine and mineral content, typically obtained from seafood, helped prevent thyroid problems and other deficiencies when fishing was restricted by naval warfare. Government health authorities recommended it particularly for pregnant women and children. Its unusual harvest window, from late spring through early summer, filled a crucial gap when winter stores were depleted, but main summer crops weren't yet ready, making it a key component of year-round food security. Swiss chard. When garden space and seeds were strictly limited, wartime victory gardeners relied heavily on an extraordinarily productive vegetable, Swiss chard. Unlike most greens that required frequent replanting, a single planting of chard could continue producing from spring until winter frost, provided outer leaves were harvested regularly. This cut-and-come-again feature effectively transformed small plots into continuous vegetable factories, with some wartime records showing yields of over 40 pounds of nutritious greens from just a 10-foot row. Swiss chard was especially valuable due to its high nutrient density, particularly its iron content, which was essential for factory-working women when meat was heavily rationed. Government nutrition programs promoted chard as a blood-building food vital for maintaining the health of the industrial workforce. Its remarkable heat tolerance ensured production throughout summer when lettuce and spinach had long since failed, making it an indispensable fresh food source during midsummer when many other garden crops struggled. Turnip-rooted chervil. During the darkest days of wartime food shortages, French resistance fighters and rural communities relied on a forgotten woodland root, turnip-rooted chervil. This remarkable vegetable thrived in partial shade, where traditional garden crops would fail, allowing food production to be hidden from occupying forces. Unlike most root vegetables that required full sun, turnip-rooted chervil produced sweet, aromatic roots with an anise-like flavor in woodland settings, effectively turning non-agricultural land into a productive food source. Its unusual growth cycle, planted in autumn and harvested in spring, meant that it utilized off-season periods when garden space was otherwise unproductive. This counter-seasonal production helped extend food supplies throughout the year. The plant's inconspicuous appearance, resembling natural woodland vegetation, made it particularly valuable for resistance communities needing to cultivate food covertly to avoid detection during times of strict food control. Caucasian mountain spinach. As seed supplies dwindled under wartime restrictions, European gardeners turned increasingly to perennial vegetables that didn't require annual replanting, particularly Caucasian mountain spinach. This extraordinary plant produced abundant spinach-like leaves from the same roots for up to 25 years, creating long-term food security that lasted well beyond the war. Unlike conventional greens that provided fresh leaves for only a few weeks, mountain spinach offered continuous production from early spring through late autumn. Young shoots could be harvested like asparagus, while mature leaves were used like spinach, effectively providing two distinct vegetables from the same plant. Its extreme cold hardiness allowed it to survive winter temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit, ensuring reliable production even through harsh European winters. The plant's deep root system made it highly drought-resistant, continuing to produce even during water restrictions. This self-sufficient nature ensured a steady supply of vitamin-rich greens when diverse foods were scarce. Spanish black radish. While small red radishes provided quick harvests, wartime European families relied on a far more substantial root crop for winter nutrition, the Spanish black radish. These large, black-skinned roots, often weighing a pound or more, stored perfectly for months without refrigeration, providing fresh food long after harvest. Unlike common radishes that were eaten fresh, Spanish black radishes were highly versatile. They could be eaten raw, cooked like turnips, or even dried and ground into a coffee substitute when imports were unavailable. This adaptability made them incredibly valuable, as home cooks had to continually reinvent meals under strict rationing. Spanish black radishes were also prized for their medicinal qualities, particularly for treating respiratory and digestive ailments when conventional medicines were scarce. Thinly sliced radish mixed with honey became a standard remedy for coughs and bronchial infections across occupied Europe. The plants were also remarkably cold-tolerant, continuing to grow into early winter, extending the productive garden season when food was most needed. Garden sorrel. When vitamin C deficiencies threatened wartime populations, a forgotten perennial leaf vegetable emerged as a nutritional savior, garden sorrel. This hardy plant contained more vitamin C than oranges and continued to produce tangy leaves for up to 20 years without replanting. Unlike most greens that had short harvest periods, sorrel provided fresh leaves from early spring through late autumn, with especially abundant production in early spring when new crops were just being planted. This early harvest helped bridge the hunger gap, when winter stores were depleted, but new vegetables weren't yet ready. Sorrel's exceptional shade tolerance allowed it to grow successfully under fruit trees or in north-facing spaces where most vegetables would fail. This adaptability effectively doubled a garden's productive capacity by utilizing otherwise unsuitable areas. The plant's distinctive lemon-like tang added flavor to wartime diets, providing psychological comfort when citrus fruits were unavailable. French resistance cookbooks featured numerous sorrel recipes, helping maintain cultural traditions while ensuring vital nutrition. Chicory, the coffee alternative. As coffee imports vanished under naval blockades, a humble root vegetable became unexpectedly important, chicory. While its bitter leaves had long been used in salads, wartime necessity transformed its roasted roots into the continent's primary coffee substitute. Unlike many crops that required rich soil, chicory thrived in poor conditions, even growing in bombed-out urban rubble. This resilience allowed production to continue in damaged areas where conventional farming was impossible. Chicory was doubly valuable because it provided two crops from the same plant, nutritious salad greens throughout summer and roots harvested in autumn for coffee substitute production. This efficiency maximized food value from limited growing space. More than just a beverage, chicory coffee provided psychological comfort. The morning ritual of a hot cup, even if not true coffee, maintained a crucial sense of normalcy and routine during deeply abnormal times, sustaining morale throughout the war. Finnish swamp turnip. In northern European regions with short growing seasons, an extraordinary root vegetable helped prevent widespread starvation, the Finnish swamp turnip or lontu. These massive roots, often weighing over 15 pounds, thrived in wet, acidic soils where conventional crops would fail. Unlike most vegetables that required careful cultivation, swamp turnips grew with minimal attention, succeeding even in waterlogged conditions unsuitable for standard agriculture. Their incredible storage life, remaining fresh for up to 8 months in root cellars or even buried in soil, ensured reliable nutrition throughout the long northern winters. Their high vitamin C content helped prevent scurvy in populations cut off from citrus imports. Norwegian resistance records indicate that these humble roots were often hidden in forests and bogs to avoid confiscation by occupying forces, serving as a vital food source when supplies were critically low. During times of war and extreme hardship, people have had to adapt and find innovative ways to grow food in challenging conditions. Remote bog areas, inaccessible to occupying forces, became a lifeline for many, saving thousands from starvation during the harshest winters of occupation. Among the many plants that played a crucial role in survival, one in particular stood out: the resilient and highly adaptable wartime cabbage. The unyielding strength of victory cabbage. When other vegetables succumbed to the hardships of wartime, a special variety of non-heading cabbage emerged as the ultimate survivor: victory cabbage. Unlike traditional cabbages that were cultivated for single heads, this extraordinary plant, also known as walking stick kale, continuously produced nutritious leaves for up to 2 years from the same plant. Its exceptional resilience earned it the nickname bulletproof greens in British victory gardens. Despite suffering partial damage from bombings, shrapnel, drought, and harsh winters, victory cabbage continued to grow and provide essential nourishment. This unmatched hardiness ensured that food production could persist even in areas experiencing active conflict. Maximizing limited space with vertical growth. One of the key advantages of victory cabbage was its vertical growth habit. Unlike traditional cabbage plants that spread out horizontally, this variety grew upwards, reaching heights of 6 feet or more. This vertical growth pattern effectively tripled the harvestable yield from the same plot of land, maximizing production in small gardens where every inch of soil was precious. At a time when food security was uncertain, the ability to grow more food in less space was invaluable. Families could rely on these towering stalks to provide a steady supply of greens throughout the year, ensuring that even the smallest gardens remained productive. A symbol of resilience and hope. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of victory cabbage was not just its nutritional value but also its symbolic importance. These towering plants stood as visible reminders of resilience and perseverance. Their presence in war-torn neighborhoods served as a testament to human endurance, demonstrating that life could continue even amidst destruction. As homes and streets crumbled under bombardment, these steadfast greens remained standing. They withstood the hardships of war, just as the people who cultivated them did. In this way, victory cabbage became more than just a source of sustenance. It became a powerful metaphor for the unbreakable human spirit. The legacy of wartime vegetables. The story of victory cabbage is just one example of how people turned to unconventional food sources during history's darkest hours. These vegetables were not merely plants. They were survival tools, enabling entire nations to endure conflict and scarcity. Each of these resilient crops was chosen and cultivated for its ability to thrive when conventional food systems collapsed. From the deep-rooted turnips that grew in hidden forest clearings to salt-tolerant greens that flourished along coastal regions, these vegetables played a crucial role in sustaining populations through war and adversity. Preserving forgotten wisdom. Even today, many of these hardy vegetable varieties still exist, thanks to dedicated seed savers who understand their timeless value. While modern food production has evolved, the lessons learned from wartime gardening remain relevant. In an era where food security and sustainability are growing concerns, looking back at these resilient crops can provide valuable insights into how to grow food efficiently in challenging conditions. By embracing the knowledge of our ancestors, we can ensure that these survival crops remain a part of our agricultural heritage. Whether for self-sufficiency, preparedness, or simply an appreciation for history, growing these remarkable plants serves as a living tribute to those who endured the unimaginable hardships of war. Join the conversation. If you found this journey through wartime vegetable gardening insightful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more forgotten wisdom from the past. Which of these incredible survival vegetables surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, when we uncover more survival lessons from history.